Green beans are a garden staple. They thrive in almost every part of the continental United States, and they are the third most popular garden veggie, right after tomatoes and peppers. There are more than 130 different varieties of green beans, and they go by names like string beans, snap beans, and pole beans. Fried, blanched, boiled, or fresh and raw right out of the garden while you're picking. People have come up with many ways to enjoy this tasty legume. I'm Charity Nebbe. On this episode of Iowa Ingredient, we'll visit Good Eetens Produce Farm to learn the ins and outs of growing green beans. Then, Chef Andy Schumacher from the Cobble Hill restaurant in Cedar Rapids will share some brilliant ways to cook with green beans. All that and more coming up next on Iowa Ingredient.
Funding for Iowa Ingredient is provided by the W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Trust, Chef Lisa Laval of Trellis Cafe and the River Center, and Chef Michael Laval of the Des Moines Embassy Club. For more than 100 years, the Des Moines Embassy Club has provided a place to dine, celebrate, and do business, located in downtown Des Moines and in West Des Moines. And the Friends of Iowa Public Television Foundation.
Green beans reveal their freshness with this snap, but that thick husk almost led to their culinary demise. The story goes that the Spanish explorers who first brought green beans to Europe wouldn't eat them at first because of that tough pod. But then one day, quite by accident, the cook let some green beans fall into a pot of soup, but didn't notice until it was too late. The green beans softened and revealed that unique flavor. Now, we can't necessarily verify this story, but we do know that we love green beans today. The historic moment that led to our ancestors adding green beans to their edible veggie lists may have been happenstance, but at Good Eetens Produce Farm in northwest Iowa, green beans were a deliberate addition to a business model that started with fruit.
Well, Michael started Good Eetens with the strawberry patch in about 2009.
Yep.
And that's the year that we met. And the next year we were married in 2010, and we started the vegetable part of the farm in 2011. And it's gradually been growing and growing and growing.
And the strawberry patch has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller.
Growing vegetables and working as a team to harvest healthy food is more than a passion for the Eetens. It's setting them up for a bright future.
This is a way of moving from the jobs we used to have to gardening full time.
We both love being outdoors and gardening, and we believe in eating healthy, and we want to promote that kind of lifestyle. So yeah, this is our retirement job. When we retire, we quit our other jobs.
Experimenting with different vegetables is just one of the joys of produce farming for this energetic couple.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, tomatoes, potatoes, onions, green beans, peas, broccoli, cabbage, onions, kohlrabi beets, sweet corn, yeah. Just almost anything. We try a little bit of everything.
I think the list is up to about 64 different fruits and vegetables.
More than that.
More
like
than that?
I think more like 90. Yeah.
They also take pleasure in getting their vegetables out to customers in a variety of ways.
We have a CSA, and this year we have 13 members. And we go to 3 different farmers markets in 3 different towns in the area. And if anybody wants to stop at the farm and buy something, that's fine too. But yeah, these are beautiful.
Even though several varieties of green beans, both pole and bush styles, can be grown in Iowa, the Eatens stick with what works for their Northwest Iowa soil, the jade bean.
We just had a customer come to market this week and ask us what kind we grow. She says, oh, your beans are so good. And so we stick with jade.
Using greenhouses, drip irrigation, and clever planting schedules, Darla and Michael are able to spread out the green bean love.
We basically have 3 different plantings of beans. We plant the beans early in the greenhouse so we can get early beans to market. And then here at this farm, we plant the 2nd wave. And then outside at the Everly farm, we plant the 3rd wave so we can have kind of a steady supply.
Michael and Darla adore being inventive, working outdoors,
Oh, these are beauties.
and bringing healthy food to their surrounding communities.
Well, when you can take your passion and get paid for it, and it's not big bucks, but it's enough to make a good living in Northwest Iowa.
And we're doing what we love. We're doing what we love, so we don't even think of it as work. And it's fun.
Spend a little time in the kitchen with Chef Andy Schumacher, and chances are good you'll hear him use the word focused. It describes his menu, his philosophy, and his passion for service. Andy and his wife Carrie spent many years working in the restaurant industry in Brooklyn, New York. Their adventure inspired them to bring the big city dining experience home to Cedar Rapids. Downtown energy comes to life at Cobble Hill Eatery and Dispensary with delicious food, open doors, and a historic building.
But we were really inspired with the community of restaurants there. There was a lot of small restaurants that were kind of independently run by people who are passionate about food and wine and service, but maybe didn't really necessarily want to work in Manhattan, but still do really cool stuff.
Chef Andy's menu is fresh and intentional. It changes every few months, and he challenges himself not to do the same dish twice.
It's a smaller menu, since we do everything from scratch. We like to do a lot of technique-driven things. Some of our dishes have a lot of labor involved in them, so we like to keep our menu smaller. We have a Nyman Ranch flat iron steak. We usually have a fish dish on the menu. We'll do aged Pekin duck breast. So we have about 6 entrees, featuring a different protein, and then we'll switch up different accompaniments with them throughout the year when the seasons change.
It is Andy's ambition to create food with a story. He loves incorporating flavors from around the world, and like many chefs, he loves celebrating the seasons by supporting community growers.
I really enjoy creating food. One of the reasons I like it is because the cycle of the year and the seasons, I think for all of us, we have this, especially living in Iowa where we experience them really heavily, we all have a really strong sense of nostalgia or this cyclical vibe when a new season comes back that you haven't experienced in 12 months, and you have a rush of memories and you have a rush of feelings when you smell something from winter or fall that you remember every time that happens, and it's kind of a little bit magical.
It's not just about the food here. The Schumachers see the spirit of service in their business as a means to make the world a better place.
A bedrock of what I think makes us successful is approaching hospitality from a way where when someone comes in here, we want them to feel special, we want to treat them and make them feel good. And we're spreading good energy to people when they come in, which they're going to carry with them and hopefully continue to spread in their lives.
Nothing makes Andy happier than to inspire a customer to try something new and have them like it.
How's everything so far, guys?
Fantastic.
You like it?
Yeah. Cool, isn't it?
Thankfully, because we're treating the ingredients right and objectively making sure the food tastes good, I think that's changing their paradigm on stuff, which is crazy. And that's like super satisfying, because then that person's gonna leave and say, you know, maybe I'm gonna open my mind up to other things too that I would have maybe disavowed before.
And now we're in the kitchen with Chef Andy Schumacher of Cobble Hill, and we are going to do some cooking with green beans, right? Awesome. What are we going to make?
So we have a couple dishes for you today. The first one's going to be a little bit more of a light, summery dish.
Okay.
We're going to just show you some blanching technique for green beans. I have some nice summer basil. We're going to make a little basil butter sauce, and then just dress some raw summer vegetables with a little vinaigrette.
It already smells amazing in here.
Yeah.
So, and the water is ready for blanching.
Yes.
So should we get that going?
Yeah. So we're going to start off by blanching our green beans. I think I have some salt over there.
Yep.
So kind of a couple of things to think about when you're blanching. I always tell people to make the water taste like the ocean. So, you know, for a gallon of water, it's usually about a cup of kosher salt. So this is a little less than a gallon, so I'm just going to put a fair amount in there. And that does kind of scare people sometimes because they feel like there's so much salt, but most of it stays in the water when you throw it out. And the point of it is that when we cook the green beans, they're actually going to absorb some of the salt and season the green beans and really bring out a little bit more of their flavor.
Okay, so don't be afraid to add the salt.
Don't be afraid of the salt. So we're gonna make just a really very simple vinaigrette. I brought this ingredient that I use a lot at the restaurant. It's called yuzu. Yuzu is like a Japanese lemon.
Okay.
And we don't get the actual lemons, they're really expensive, but we can buy bottles of them. If you can't find this or don't have it, you can absolutely just use straight lemon juice. It's
Why
a
do
great
you like it
substitute.
better?
It has like this really awesome, like florally, like piney kind of flavor. It's just a different, I mean, it's definitely citrus and acidic, but it has like an extra layer of like sweetness and brightness. This is just a real simple vinaigrette. Usually with vinaigrettes like this, I do like 2 or 3 parts of oil to 1 part of citrus. And, you know, and for vinaigrettes, you can use vinegar or citrus or whatever you like. If you want to like make this a creamy vinaigrette with like Dijon or something, that's fine too. A little bit of salt, and then we'll just kind of whisk this up, and then we'll kind of get it ready to dress our vegetables with. All right, well, I think the beans are ready. If you want to grab that strainer there.
And this just stops the cooking.
Yep, this just stops the cooking. You know, I've read some different things. Some people will like just to throw them on a sheet tray or like a cookie tray and let them air cool. The only thing about this is if you leave them in the water too long, it will kind of leach some of that salt back out that you spent time getting in it. So if we just kind of get them nice and cooled off quick, and then we can take them out and let them drain, and that should be fine.
Okay. Basil in here next?
Yep, so I'm just gonna drop that in there.
All right.
Yep, maybe like 5-10 seconds, stir, and then bring it out. Awesome. So when you're done with that, what we're gonna do is puree it in the blender.
All right, let's assemble our salad, right?
Let's do it, yeah. So this is just our yuzu vinaigrette. And I'm gonna do a pinch of sugar in there too, because it is quite acidic. And now we're gonna move on to making our basil butter sauce. So we're gonna put the beans into the pan. Start with a little bit of water. We're gonna add a little bit of our basil puree. Okay.
All right.
So what we're gonna do here is turn the heat up. So you wanna make sure it's warm enough where it's just kind of simmering, you know, and going. And we're getting a little bit of simmering on the side.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm just gonna add in some whole butter here, and all you gotta do is just grab it and start, keep it moving is the rule here. And as that butter melts, it will stay emulsified.
All right.
And then, you know, just the other thing, if it gets too cold, it can break. If it gets too hot, it can break. So you just want to kind of keep it at that light simmering thing. We're going there, you're good on heat. And then I'll also add the rest of this butter.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna like season it with a little bit of salt. And then once all your butter's melted, we'll taste it, make sure it's warm.
Okay.
And then it'll be ready to plate.
All right.
We have the radishes here, some fennel, some tomatoes. And the last thing we'll put on after we have these on is some extra basil leaves. Whenever I think of a dish, I really like to repeat ingredients a lot of times in the garnish. So we spend all, like getting this beautiful basil sauce on the plate. And so it'll allow us to take, before we cook it and blanch it, we kept some of the most petite little leaves here.
Nice.
That would just be nice to kind of like
An
sprinkle
echo of
across.
where we started.
Exactly. And then we're ready to try it.
Wonderful. Oh, this looks so beautiful. My goodness. Make sure I get a little bit of everything here.
Yeah.
That's so delicious. The uzu really comes through, which is a really lovely flavor.
Yeah.
And then the basil flavor is really strong, but the butter
I know.
is.
It's like, whoa.
I could drink that
I know,
stuff.
it's crazy.
Oh my goodness, that's delicious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, what are we gonna make now?
So we're gonna cook the green beans from their raw state.
Okay.
I think like everyone's kind of used to blanching green beans, and that's kind of a lot of people know that. These are going to go in a pan from raw, and we're going to just start caramelizing them over heat until they get color on them.
Okay.
And then we're going to build like a little stir fry with them together.
All right, that sounds great.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a little sauce, a Japanese sauce called atare.
Okay.
And it's basically kind of that phrase refers to just kind of a general bumped up soy seasoning sauce. So we have soy in here, mirin, which is rice wine, and a little sake. And if you don't have sake, you can just do soy mirin, and that's fine.
Okay.
We're gonna add a little bit of sugar to it too.
All right.
And we'll just stir that up and get the sugar to dissolve on that.
All right.
And that's gonna be our base for when we coat the beans with this sauce.
All right.
I'm gonna start with a couple tablespoons of oil in that pan. And then we're going to add our green beans to these. Hopefully they're gonna get some brown color on them. Some roasted flavor, and we put this layer in here like this, and we're just gonna let them go.
Okay.
We're just gonna pour this out, and this is pretty much ready to go. So we're gonna let this sauce cool down a little bit before we add the cornstarch to it, and then we'll move on to the next step.
All right, and these beans are
Yeah, they're looking
getting
good.
there, right?
Yeah, so you can see we've got some color on them. They have space to sizzle and move. Don't be afraid to kind of leave them on high heat and get that char on them. That's what we're looking for.
All right, but this is the time to add some more stuff in, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now we have that sliced garlic and ginger that we had.
Okay.
Also want to note we have enough oil in the pan so that when we add the garlic and ginger, it's going to be able to sizzle and get cooked well and infused in that oil.
All right.
So our sauce is here. I'm going to do 3 or 4 tablespoons of this. We'll maybe do like 6 for this.
All right, I'm starting to smell the ginger. That smells fantastic.
And then with that, we'll do a couple teaspoons of cornstarch into here.
All right.
Okay, and then we'll just kind of stir this together until the cornstarch is kind of dissolved here. So now I have these fermented black beans. I'm just gonna sprinkle those in there like that. So we'll just add some of our sauce here. All the sauce, actually. And as soon as that starts to boil, I'm gonna kill the heat as well, because you can see how thick it's gotten.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a transformation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, this seems a little thick, so what I have here is a little bit of water, and I'm just gonna add a little water to thin this out. And then re-simmer it until it's kind of where we want it to be. So now we're ready to, I think we're ready to plate.
Awesome.
I really like the darkness of it and the umami. It really kind of goes well with the green beans. So we're gonna finish it with some sesame
Well, and I think
seeds.
this is one of those dishes that people would be maybe a little intimidated by trying to make at home.
Yeah.
But that was really simple.
Yeah, it's
that
really
was terrific.
easy. And you can even have that kind of combined and ready to go in the fridge, so this could be a really fast dish.
So you could do it every night.
Exactly.
All right, let's try this.
Try 'em.
Yeah. Oh, that's really delicious. And the beans still have a little bit of a bite to them, which is wonderful. The sauce does just glaze them and add a little bit of sweetness and depth.
Yeah.
That is delicious.
Thank you.
Chef Andy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wonderful.
On an early summer morning in Spirit Lake, the local farmers market opens for business. One of the first people you'll find shopping is a former construction contractor from Texas named Michael Dunn.
I generally need a shopping cart, and they don't have any here by the time I leave the farmer's market.
He's a familiar face to many growers. Today, he's checking out the stalls looking for several locally sourced ingredients like asparagus, chicken, and arugula. It's an early start to a long day, but this food isn't going to cook itself. And as Michael will tell you, this is what happens when a guy meets a girl on Facebook, retires to Iowa, watches a few too many cooking programs on television, and decides to build a food truck. The Farm to Fork food truck manages to be many things. It's a little bit Texas barbecue.
Brisket, ribs, sausage.
It's a little bit foodie.
I decided to start going into making miniature pies, little 3-inch pies.
And it's a whole lot of creativity.
Well, maybe it's like someone called it yesterday, Texas fusion.
Take one look at the menu and you'll see something that is indeed different. Using anything and everything local, Michael experiments, concocts, and creates several unique items.
No telling what it'll be next week. We'll change it up. We try to be very different than anything you can get at any restaurant in this area. It was my concept of providing locally grown food for the wonderful people of Iowa.
Homemade bacon jam. He makes with bacon and 27 different other ingredients.
I needed a summer hobby because I wasn't going to do construction anymore. So instead of culinary school, I just spent a lot of time watching cooking shows and reading cookbooks. Doesn't get better than that. Then I've managed to hire myself a pretty good staff.
Michael and his team find ways to keep both the local regulars and new visitors surprised.
Of course, being a resort area, people from all over the world actually come here. You can tell by the signatures on the truck. I let people sign it, and they've come from Japan to Germany to England to everywhere. It's just overwhelming and awesome that people think that highly of our food. It's really a dream come true, not knowing I had that dream, really.
Michael has found a way to make the summer experience in Iowa even better, with local food, an outdoor atmosphere, and extremely friendly company, all wrapped up in a unique food truck. That's it for this week's show. Thank you for joining us as we harvest the stories behind Iowa's food. I'm Charity Nebbe. See you next time for another episode of Iowa Ingredient. Keep in mind that circumstances are always changing, so please take a moment to check ahead if you're planning to visit a restaurant, farm, or event featured on the show.
Funding for Iowa Ingredient is provided by the W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Trust, Chef Lisa Laval of Trellis Cafe and the River Center, and Chef Michael Laval of the Des Moines Embassy Club. For more than 100 years, the Des Moines Embassy Club has provided a place to dine, celebrate, and do business, located in downtown Des Moines and in West Des Moines. And the Friends of Iowa Public Television Foundation.